Good morning, guys. Today we're going to be looking at a circular cone. A cone is like an ice cream cone, guys. Okay, we're simply trying to calculate the total surface area of an ice cream cone or the volume of an ice cream cone. Okay, you will realize that a cone is exactly the same as a pyramid, except that it has a circular base. All right, so when you calculate the volume, it's pretty much the same as calculating the volume of a pyramid. Remember, the volume of any figure is just the area of the base times height, but when you're dealing with pyramids and cones, you will simply take the area of the base and multiply it by 1/3, and then you still multiply it by the height of the cone or the pyramid or the height of the prism. Nothing changes. Right now, please check, we have this as a circular cone. Please note that the height will simply be perpendicular to the base, and the base is a circle. Okay, now we are given this. When you try to unfold the cone, note that when you try and cut one side of a cone, it'll form what we refer to as a sector. Okay, it'll form what we refer to as a sector. A sector is like when you have a pizza and then you cut a part of your pizza. That part that you're taking out of your pizza, that's what we refer to as a sector. Now try to fold the radiuses of that pizza and you realize that it creates a cone. Okay, when you buy pizza, please try and do that. You will realize that it creates a cone. When you unfold it, it will create a sector. It is just part of a circle. Okay, note that the radius will simply be the slant height, which is a. All right, the radius will simply be the slant height, which is a. Slant height is simply this height here of the sides. That is the slant height. It's normally the radius of the full circle or the radius of that sector. Okay, now for me to calculate that slant height, I just need the radius of the base, and I will multiply it. I will add it with the height of the cone. So when you take a squared, actually as a matter of fact, a squared will be equal to r squared plus h squared, and you will give a reason that is a Pythag. Therefore a will simply be equal to the square root of r squared plus h squared. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Okay, I will actually do it later. Now this is what we refer to as a sector. All right, and that is the radius. Remember, we said the radius will be a. You will realize that it looks pretty much like a triangle. Okay, so when you calculate the area of these are the sides of your cone. Right, as I've said, you're simply calculating the area of your pizza, the pizza that you cut out. When you try to calculate the area of the pizza that you cut out, which is just the sector, you will simply use this formula here. When I try to cut this into pieces, my sector into pieces, it'll give me a rectangle, just like I've shown you in the diagram. But however, guys, if I want to calculate the area of this sector, I will simply apply the area of a triangle, where my base will simply be these. And please note that the length of that will be that. It is simply 2 pi r, because that is a circumference. All right, the area of a circumference, it will always be 2 pi r. Now if I wanted to calculate the area of that sector, I will follow the examples. Well, I will follow the examples that we did earlier on when we calculated the area of a triangle. It is just half base times height. In this case, obviously your height will be a, the base will simply be 2 pi r, and this is what you will get. So basically the area of my sector will simply be pi r. A will simply be the slant height, and remember a will be equal to the square root of r squared plus h squared. Now this is what we have. I'm going to show you guys how to calculate a. Now this is the value of a. When I use the theorem of Pythagoras, I'm going to say a squared is equals to r squared plus h squared. And that Pythagoras, right? Obviously, we'll manipulate the formula to solve for a squared, which is simply the square root of r squared plus h squared. Now, if I wanted to calculate the area of the base, this is the base of the cone. We do have the radius. So basically the area of the base of the cone will simply be pi r squared, which is the area of the circle. The area of the walls is simply these sides of the cone, right? The sides of the cone, those circular sides of the cone, the curved sides of the cone. Okay, I wish I can have a picture. Let me just try and create a picture for you. So basically this is what we have. Those sides of the cone, that's what we are trying to calculate, because when you unfold the cone, it will give us a sector. I will simply use the formula for calculating the area of a sector, and hence I will have the area of those walls of the cone will simply be pi r a, where a we have indicated above will simply be the square root of r squared plus h squared. All right, we're going to be using these formulas more often. If it confuses you, we're going to do more examples and then apply what you have learned. Let's quickly calculate the area of A, basically the total surface area. You will simply take the area of your base and add the area of your walls, and the area of the base will simply be pi r squared plus pi r, where A is simply r squared plus h squared. So you will use this formula when you try to calculate the total surface area of a cone, of a circular cone, that is. You will use this formula when you try to calculate the total surface area of the cone. All right, I have explained that h is simply the height of the cone. The cone is exactly the same as a pyramid, except that it has a circular base. Let's quickly calculate the volume of the cone, and I will show you guys how to calculate the volume of the cone. This is the formula that you have to use, which is exactly the same as calculating the volume of your pyramid. Now let's do one example where we have the height of this cone will be 14 centimeters, and then we have 4 centimeters as the radius of the base. You will simply find the area of the base and multiply it by the height of this cone to calculate the volume. However, you will need this length height, which is h, if you want to calculate your total surface area. Let's quickly start with calculating the area of the base. The area of the base will simply be pi r squared, where r is simply 4, and you're going to square that. It will give you 16 pi. 16 pi, you can put that into your calculator. It will give you a decimal value. For me to find the volume, all I have to do is simply to take the area of the base and multiply it by the height of the cone. Okay, but firstly, I'm going to find the area of the walls. If I want to find the area of the walls, remember this formula here. I showed you this formula above. So basically, for me to be able to calculate the area of the walls, obviously I will need to find the value of h, and h will be, I did explain in the previous slide, it'll simply be the height of the cone squared plus the radius of the cone squared, and you add the two, you find the square root of that, it will give you h, and that will enable you to find the area of the walls of the cone. In this case, the height will be 2 square root of 53 centimeters. Now I'm going to quickly calculate the area of the walls. The area of the walls will simply be what I've indicated above. It'll simply be pi. R is 4, and the height will simply be 2 square root of 53. When you multiply those two, it'll give you 8 pi square root of 53 squared centimeters. That's how you calculate the area of the walls. Okay, please, you can avoid using this formula. Instead, use the formula that I've just indicated here. When you want to calculate the area of the curved walls, please use this formula. And obviously when you use that formula, this is what you will get. Okay, now the sum of the areas, which is the total surface area, you will simply take 16 pi and add it with the area of the walls, and it will give you a total surface area, which is 233,2. Your final answer is that the total surface area of the cone is 233,2 squared centimeters.